And then we're going to come on to our backs. And with the knees bent, let's do some pelvic tilts. But first, make sure your shoulder blades, again, are on your back with the arm bones rolled out. And then just tip your tailbone down towards the floor, feeling the lift in your low back, stretch in your neck. And then pull the tailbone up towards your knees. Let your chin go back. Feel the flattening of the whole curve of the spine. And then just go back and forth. Use supine, cat-cow. Warming the spine. And as you are doing the movement, just notice how you use your legs to help you to accomplish the movement. How much it helps when you go to flatten your back and lift your tailbone to push down into your feet. So when you do that, squeeze your buttocks where they meet your legs just a bit. Doesn't need to be a lot, but just so that you're turning on those glutes. And when you squeeze your glutes or contract them, it naturally goes down into the hamstrings, and the hamstrings contract a little bit as well. Just notice for yourself anything else in your body that contracts besides your buttocks and the hamstrings. And if you're really relaxed, you'll feel this movement all the way through your body. So if you're not feeling it all the way through your body, you may want to stop for a moment and just breathe and see if you can let go of any holding that you may be doing unconsciously, habitually. And then go back to the movement and see if your head is naturally responding to what you're doing with your pelvis. And really exaggerate the pelvic movement, really lifting that low back, pressing it upwards, feeling the contraction of the muscles in the low back. And now we're going to do some pelvic rotations. So taking the tailbone down towards the floor, then start to rotate off to one side, and then lifting the tailbone, pressing the low back, rotating around to the other side. So you're just touching that hip on one side and then back to the tailbone. Just slowly and very intentionally touching each point of this circle that you're making with your pelvis. Notice how you use your legs to help control the movement. And notice any places where you don't seem to maybe make contact as easily. Or any place in which you feel pain in and around the circle, or maybe somewhere else in your body. And then when you complete this round, reverse and go in the other direction. Notice if it's similar or if going in the opposite direction may be more challenging in some way, maybe less control. And again, pay attention to the contraction and the release of the muscles that, well, your glutes primarily, but also your lower abdominal muscles. And that's really where we want our focus more than, I mean, the legs definitely are going to be doing contraction and releasing as well, but let's just pay more attention right now to these muscles in the pelvic area. Because this is the area that's really key to your posture, to your balance. I mean, your whole body works together as a whole, but if you don't have control over this part of your body, everything else is much harder. Make one more full circle, trying to touch each point. And then come to rest when you finish. You can stretch your legs out if you like. And then we'll roll over onto our right side and just put your blanket, if you like, or your head on your right arm. And then bend both knees into a chair shape. And you can use your left hand to help with stability if you like. And then just stretch that left leg down towards the foot end of the mat. And really reach it so you can feel that pelvic bone, the left pelvic bone, pulling down away from the waist and making your left waist longer. And so now let's take the left arm over the ear, above the head, and just elongate through your left side body. And now bring your left hip and your left elbow, pull them towards one another so you feel the shortening of your left side waist. And then pull them away from each other by reaching the arm and the leg away. Feel the length, and then bring them close together, shortening the side waist, and then reach them away from one another. Now your right side is doing the exact opposite to your left waist. So include that in your awareness. How much range of motion do you have here? Now just keep your leg long, but bring your arm back wherever you are comfortable. And then let's just start to bring that left leg back behind you. And for now, try not to let your trunk roll towards the floor. Keep it in this neutral position for a bit as you take the top leg back, and try not to let that top leg roll out. In fact, intentionally try to roll it in. And when you get back as far as you can go, hold it there and just breathe. Feel that stretch on the front of your pelvis, down your leg, possibly. Now reach your left arm diagonally out to the right and up, and let your trunk start to roll towards the floor until you feel maybe more stretch on the front of that pelvis. So we're talking psoas muscle here. So just hold this. Feel the sensations. Try to relax. Take some nice, deep, full breaths. And even maybe exhaling through the mouth on the exhale. And then slowly bring that left knee to join the right knee. Just relax that right side waist and notice how now that right waist just really sinks into the ground. Whole right side is just heavier. And then stretch that left leg straight out in front of you now. Reaching from your buttock muscle all the way through your heel. And let's just make a big arc down towards the foot end of your mat and back. And we're not going to hold it this time. We're just going to swing the leg back and forth in a half circle. And notice how your pelvis is going into that same kind of movement as the cat-cow. It's not on both sides, it's just on one side now. And it's probably because you're only doing one side and the leg is straight, it's not going to be as dramatic as you can do in the other position. And then bring it forward again and pull it up as high as you can. When I say high, I mean still on the floor, but higher up towards the shoulder height of your body, depending on your flexibility in your hamstrings, but also the flexibility in your glutes. And then bring that right arm out of the shoulder and roll your chest open to the left. I can take some time for the body to rotate this way. And as you're holding it here, just notice if that right side kind of feels stuck, like it's not as open as the left side. And what I like to do is just press down on the back of my head and lift my ribs and pull those right ribs to the right so that I'm more on my back rather than kind of in that uncomfortable feeling of being half on my side, half on my back. And then turn your head to the left if it's not uncomfortable to do that. Notice your breathing and relax everything that you're able to relax. And then bring your right leg to join your left leg. And just stack that left leg on top of the right leg. And then we'll bring both arms towards the feet and round your back. And tuck your head down towards your chest and stretch the whole back of your body. And then release. And we're going to come into a child's pose. And you can do this child's pose with the toes turned under or flat on the tops of the feet. It kind of depends on how warm your body is. So if you turn your toes under, it helps if you're not really warm enough yet to do a full child's pose. And then just stretch your arms forward and push the hands down into the mat to push your hips back. And then we'll come on to our left side. And so come into the chair shape. And try to bring that left arm, keep it in line with the side of your body. And then stretch that right leg straight down out of the hip. Notice your left side waist and if it's lifted away from the floor or resting on the floor. And there's not a right or wrong. I'm just asking you to notice. And then let's do that movement that we did on the other side. So stretch your right arm over your ear as you pull that right leg away from you. And then bend your right elbow and hike your right hip up and try to touch them together. And then stretch them away from one another. And then pull them together. And just continue that. Notice what's happening on your left waist as well as your right waist. So we're really learning, or the body is learning, as you are moving your pelvis in these very nuanced ways, and recognizing the ability of each side of the pelvis to do a little different. They shouldn't be doing a lot different than, because, you know, we have a lot of strong ligaments in our pelvic area, and we don't want to stretch the ligaments. And it's pretty hard to do that. So unless you know you have loose ligaments, you don't really need to worry too much about it. But it does limit how much you can move each side of your pelvis differently than the other side. Okay. Now, just put your right hand wherever you like and start to take that right leg back as far as you can and hold it there. Now, make sure you're not pushing your low back forward. Keep your navel hugged in back towards your spine. Now, if you remember when we did the other side, at this point, the opposite sideways, the one that's on the ground, really hopefully was going down and making good contact with the floor. Notice if it's the same on this side or maybe a little different, because that can give you some wonderful feedback if you have any kind of, like sciatica or low back pain or knee pain. You may have one QL muscle, quadratus lumborum muscle, tighter than the other. And that can create just enough imbalance in your pelvis that you can end up with a lot of different issues in your hips and your knees and your ankles and your feet. Now start to bring that right leg forward, at least as high as the left knee, but if you can bring it up higher towards the head side, do that. Bring it up as high as you can and then bring it back behind you again. Now while we're doing it right now, we're keeping the upper body stable and still, not letting it roll forward. Just seeing what our range is, increasing the range of our extension at the hip joint, which is really important and something we tend to lose unless we intentionally are, making sure we don't lose it. And then I forgot to have us do that bigger stretch. So now hold that right leg back again and reach with your right arm diagonally out and let your trunk roll towards the floor. Make sure that right leg is rolling in and not out. And then bring your knees back together. And let's bring the left arm out at shoulder height and open up your chest to the right. And then making that adjustment of your rib cage if you need to. And turning your head to the right. I told you to bring your knees back together, but actually your right leg should be straight. It can be in line with the left knee, but straighten your right leg. It'll be a very different stretch. So when you feel a stretch in parts of your body that kind of maybe don't feel like they really should be, you should be feeling something. Like right now for myself, I really feel this in my right shoulder more than I feel it anywhere else in my body. And I find that really interesting because it is the fascia that I'm stretching, which is why I feel it someplace other than my leg or my hip where I would expect to feel it, or even in my ribs. Or so it's really telling me about the pull of my fascia, this body bag that my muscles all exist in. And clearly there is some kind of snag or scar tissue or something somewhere along the line of my right foot and my right shoulder. So if you ever have that experience where you're feeling a stretch somewhere other than where you would expect to feel it, it's usually fascia. And that's a good thing. It's actually the only thing that does stretch. Our muscles actually don't change. The fascia changes. Okay, so let's bring both feet together. So both legs straight now. And we'll reach both hands towards the feet and tuck the head down, stretching the whole back of the body. And just notice where you feel this the most. On the back of the body. And if you feel it on the front of the body, that's fine too. But usually we feel this on the back of the body, but maybe you have a place that you feel it more than other places. For me, again, it's more in my right shoulder. So that fascia there, somewhere along the line, has got a pull in it, kind of like, if you pull a thread on an Afghan or something like that, and it kind of goes through the whole thing, or on a sweater. That's kind of how it is with your fascia. Okay, so let's come into a child's pose with the toes turned under now. And just reach your arms forward and kind of Just keep walking them forward, resisting back with your hips. And then we're gonna come up. Keep your toes turned under and start to push your hips forward and come into a modified upward dog. You can move your arms any way you like, but try to pull your shoulders down away from your ears. And then lift from your navel to go back towards that child's pose again. So if you move your arms when you go forward, then you'll have to move them when you go back. So I try to keep mine in the same place, so I'm not having to move my arms. Now go forward again and just push your hips, not only forward towards your hands, but then down and lift your chest, pull your shoulder blades down, reach your heels back, and then lift and go back again. Pushing back on the hips, reaching forward with the arms. And then coming forward one last time. Pulling the shoulder blades down. Now release the tops of your feet, bend your elbows a little bit, start to lower yourself all the way down and take your arms underneath your head and relax your back. Okay, so go ahead and push up and let's come into a seated position and actually get a block. I hope you enjoyed that series. I just looked at the clock and I have no idea that we did it that long. So go ahead and sit on your block. Take your left leg, lean to the right, and bring your left leg into Virasana. So your foot right next to the block. And make sure your foot is going straight back and that you're on the top of the foot fully. Your other foot, Peggy, should be forward. Your left foot forward. I mean, your right foot forward. Yeah, like that. Now, if you need more height, take more height. You may want 2 blocks. Or yeah, take it up on one another height. So just look at your thigh bone on your left leg, and it should kind of be on a bit of a diagonal. It shouldn't be like straight out of the hip joint. Now, pull it in towards the midline just a little bit and see how that feels. So it should feel okay. If it doesn't, then take the knee out until it's in line with the actual hip rather than in. And then with your right leg, just let it drop out like Baddha Konasana. So you're kind of in a asymmetrical pose. And if you pull your foot up as close to your groin as you can so that knee can drop. And then sit nice and tall. So notice what your hips or your pelvis is doing. So your left one should be basically in neutral and your right one's rolling forward a little bit. There you go. Okay, so let's take the arms forward and up overhead. you doing? Oh, God. What are you doing in here? And then interlace your fingers and take the palms up. Now, as you're stretching your arms, really release your sit bones down. Keep releasing them down so that your front body is getting a little shorter than your back body. So the back body is really lengthening. And then bring your arms down, bring that knee up, and then bring both feet forward. And we'll switch sides. So now right knee comes into Virasana and left leg goes into Baddha Konasana. And so just doing the legs this way should allow for you to have both sit bones down evenly. Just check that thigh bone and make sure it's kind of moved in a little bit if you can, or at the very least in line with your hip joint. And then we'll take the arms forward and take the non-dominant interlace of your hands and stretch your palms away. Peggy, if you can't get your knee out, just leave it up. One leg back. Are you getting a cramp? Yeah, that happens sometimes. And then take the arms up, stretch up. And then release. So let's go ahead and bring both legs forward again and separate your feet and let your feet turn out a little bit. Would you move, please? And put your elbows between your knees. Just look at your feet. It's amazing how different we are from side to side. So just look at your feet, make sure they're kind of, I'm looking in the camera or on the video and it's like they look so different. So do the best you can to get your feet about the same and then put your your elbows in between your knees. Bring your hands into Namaste. Now you want to try to lengthen the spine as you leave the hips heavy, which will deepen the hip crease. So push out with your elbows, but squeeze the legs back in, okay? So this is a good way to practice squat, balasana, without having to balance. So this is especially good if the calves are tight. So just really pull the shoulder blades down, lift the front of your spine up as much as you can, stretch, stretch, stretch up. And then release. And then we're going to bring both legs just over to the left. Just putting the left foot in the arch of the right foot. And then we'll twist to the right. And take your right arm, reach it out to the side. Turn the palm back and reach it back behind you. Try to find your thigh, your left thigh, and turn. And turn the left hand so that the back of the hand is on the right thigh and push that hand into the thigh to help you to turn to the right. Now turn your head back to the left. Look over the left shoulder. And breathe. Remember, we're relaxing and breathing. Relaxing and breathing. Let your shoulders go. Feel the lengthening of your neck. Just give time to these stretches so that everything that needs to happen can happen. And that you're not coming out before. Everything that needs to happen happens. And then release. And then we'll switch to the other side. So the knees should be on the same plane. You don't want one knee behind the other. And in this pose, my pelvis is so not level that I tend to put the block under the opposite side to my feet so that there's room for this side to go down because it wants to pop way up. So I don't know if that's your thing or not, but if it is, that's one of the ways you can help manage that. And then take your left arm out, turn the palm away, and then reach it around, try to find your opposite leg, hip, and then take your right back of the hand to the outside of your left thigh. And then turn your head back to the right. And then relax. Just give time for the pose to do what it's designed to do. And carefully release. And then just bring your legs forward again. And we'll come back onto our back and have a strap. So we really focused so far on the pelvis and loosening it up. So rest your arms shoulder height out into a T, and then separate your feet with the bent knees. And let's just do some windshield wiper legs. Go really slow because you have been doing all of this work of moving the two sides of the pelvis. So just go slow, taking the legs from side to side. Just notice how that feels, if it feels any different than it typically does. And then just come back to the middle. And then take your strap and strap the arch of your right leg and just stretch that leg up straight. Let your shoulders relax. So let your arms be straight, but then relax them so that you're just that relaxation is kind of pulling down on your leg, kind of getting that bone, that thigh bone to sit back into the socket. So see if you can kind of feel where the head of the femur bone is in the socket. So this is how we're going to see if we can distinguish. So first I want you to push your leg way up to the ceiling and don't lift your hip or your pelvis up off the floor, but I want you to see if you can feel that space in your hip socket. Then pull down, let your right pelvic bone settle into the ground and pull down on the foot and feel how that bone really sits down into the socket. And then push up again. Again, you're not lifting your pelvis off the floor. You're just lifting and pushing the leg up. And then pull down again and see if you can feel how kind of more integrated, a little more solid you feel in that socket. Now, why does that matter? Well, it matters because a lot of times our femur bones sit forward in the socket, and that will cause wear and tear on the socket and on the lining of the acetabulum, and can cause bursitis and, just hip impingement, those kinds of things that tend to happen as we get older. So we're trying to learn how to feel, at least feel. So now with pulling kind of, you're not really pulling down on your leg, but just letting your arms be heavy. So there's a little bit of you know, uh, gravity that's kind of helping. And then I want you to push your whole leg towards the wall that's in front of you. Okay, so push it away from you. And so that you're elongating your right side waist. So you're pulling down and pushing the leg away. So it's the top of the thigh that you're pushing away, not your foot that you're pushing away. In fact, now that you have your femur bone deep in the socket, you may be able to pull your foot toward your head more. Because a lot of times we're trying to stretch the back of the leg with the femur bone pulled forward in the socket, and there's no room to stretch the hamstring. So when the femur bone is down and back, many times then we can get more stretch in the back of the leg. Now, release it. Just let go and straighten both legs out and just let them relax. So obviously what I just went through with you is pretty nuanced and can be challenging to feel at first. So I hope that made sense. Let's do it on the other side. So we do tend to be very different on each side. So let's go ahead and strap the arch of the left leg. And just hold it here for a moment without doing anything other than just letting the back of the leg open, but just notice how tight or not that the back of this leg feels. See if you can sense the head of your femur bone in the socket. Now, one of the ways that I would suggest you maybe experiment with in terms of feeling it is, does it feel like good? Does it feel contained and safe and all those things that, you know, tend to go with things sitting well? Or does it feel a little unintegrated? So now let's lift the leg up. So really pull up on your leg. You'll feel your spine going down, but don't lift your pelvis up. Now I didn't go through this on this side, but I want you to feel, if you can, how your femur bone, when you're just pushing up, your femur bone comes more towards you than away from you typically. So that's the bone getting forward in the socket instead of back in the socket. So see if you can kind of get a sense of that. And then try to pull that foot closer to you. And it should be really, you may feel bone against bone. It typically, you can't really pull your foot closer to you. It kind of runs into the bone and you get this kind of sense of a block or a wall. So then relax again and pull down on your strap. Kind of see if you can feel that heaviness in that hip joint. And then start to push the thigh bone away towards the wall in front of you and elongate that left side waist. So that's one of the ways you know, is to feel the side of your body. Is it feeling like it's stretching? So really push it away. And at the same time you're pulling down, now try to pull your foot closer to you and see if a little bit of that wall has been, now it's not going to like alleviate a really tight hamstring, but you might be surprised that you have a little bit more stretch in your hamstring whenever the bone is sitting properly in the socket. And then go ahead and release that and stretch the legs out. Woo. So now we're going to take both legs up. So strap both arches, take the legs overhead, look at your feet, make sure you're kind of rolling your thighs in a little bit so that they're in neutral. Push up a little bit first and flatten your back. And then pull down and push the legs away. Now here, we're not really trying to bring the legs closer, although you probably could more easily than if you don't have your legs in their sockets in a good, healthy way. But, you know, and you can certainly practice that, try that. Keep pushing your thighs away. But when you're pushing them away, you know, try to think hip joint, push away. And then release. And stretch your legs out. So another place in which this having the bone sit in the hip socket in the right way, the pose is much easier, is when we take the leg out to the side. So go ahead and strap your right arch and stretch that leg up. Kind of press that thigh away from you, elongating your right sideways. And gently pulling down with your arms to set that bone in the socket. Now, with your right hand on the strap, I want you to turn the leg out as far as you can. Now, if you've got the bone sitting way back in the socket and down, turning it out should feel a little easier than it normally does. So you may be able to turn the leg out a little further than you're used to. Now go ahead and just straighten your left leg. Now we're going to start to take the right leg out to the right, but we're also pulling it up towards the shoulder. But keep pressing that bone away from you, elongating your right sideways to take the leg out to the right. So when the bone is sitting in the socket properly, it makes it much easier to take the leg out without tipping the pelvis. And if you have any discomfort in your hips, typically in just your everyday life, this is one of the ways that we heal that. Bring the leg back up and release it. Bend your left knee and release the right leg. Now stretch both legs out and just feel that whole area on the right side. It should be feeling pretty warm and well, warm. Like, you can tell that you've been moving it around, but in a healthy way. So let's do the other side. So bend up both knees and go ahead and put the strap on the left arch. Put the strap in your left hand, pull down and push away until you feel lengthening on your left waist. And then turn the whole leg out. Turn it as far as you can. And then stretch your right leg straight. As you take the leg out, don't let it pop up. And when I say pop up, I don't even mean towards the ceiling. I mean pop up or pull up towards your head side, but rather push that groin away from you as you take the leg out and keep turning it. It's going to want to roll in, keep turning it out. Doesn't matter how far to the side you take it, but just keep that head of the femur bone in the right position in the socket. And you may feel a deep stretch in there, or you may feel something you don't really recognize. But it shouldn't be a bad feeling. It may be a feeling you can't quite name. Just hold it out there for a moment. And then inhale, bring the leg back up. Bend your right knee and release. And now stretch the legs out. Let them relax. Okay, so get your bolster. And put it longwise on your mat. And let's come down, put the floating ribs on the front of your body, right on the end of your bolster. Come into a Sphinx pose. And then turn your toes under and lift your thighs and roll your thighs in. And then re-release. And then see if you can come up, straightening the elbows. And push your tailbone down, squeeze your buttocks a little bit. Now your glutes will naturally contract when you do this, but add a little bit more, especially if it bothers your low back. But reach your legs away. Feel the stretch now on the front of the pelvis where we were working. And then go ahead and push yourself up off of that bolster and just move it to the side for a moment and lay all the way down and support your head with your hands. Turn your toes under again and roll those thighs in. Now, press your pubic bones down. Now we're going to lift the legs up away from the floor, but I want you to keep your pubic bones down, and I want you to think more of those head of your femur bones moving back into the socket as you lift the legs up. You may not be able to go up as high, but I really want you to think about the bones lifting, really lifting them up into the sockets, keeping the thighs rolling in, and then lower them down. Relax. So when you lift the legs, don't think about the whole leg. Think about the head of the femur bone and lifting it up into the socket as you press your pubic bones down. So do that again. Pubic bones down, lift the head of your femur bones, pull them back into the socket, up towards the ceiling. Glutes will engage, and then slowly lower down. And we'll do that one more time. So pubic bones down, reach the legs out of the socket, pulling them towards your feet, and then trying to lift from the head of the femur bone into the socket towards the ceiling. Just hold them there. Firm legs, really pointing the toes. And then releasing them. And relax. Okay, let's take a downward facing dog. Okay, so I want you to try that same thing that you've been doing with your femur bones in down dog. So as you lift up into down dog, keep your knees bent. And start to push with your arms to take your head back, but the knees are still bent. Come up onto your toes. Now I want you to first, with your mind on the head of your femur bones, pull them towards the wall behind you. You won't be able to isolate them in the same kind of way you may have been able to do in the other poses, but still keep that kind of idea that you're pulling your thigh bones back towards the wall behind you, sucking them up towards the ceiling at the same time. Slowly straighten your legs as you keep that action of lifting the femur bones and pushing them towards the wall behind you. Lift your navel up and then come back down. And let's take a blanket, open it up, open it to this, and then make a long fold and put it longwise on your mat. Put your bolster crosswise at the end of that blanket, and then sit right over your bolster. Lie back, your head will be off, and then open your legs into Baddha Konasana. Okay, so the shoulders, it kind of depends on how tall you are. So if you need more, it's fine for your head to be on the floor, but you want your shoulders on something. So you may need to add another blanket, or you may also just want to put a blanket under your head. Just creating a little bit of an inversion, but I want you to, main reason I'm doing this is I want you to notice in this position how your femur bones sit way back in the sockets naturally, just because of the way we're shaping the body. So just be here and breathe. Feel the weight of those bones. And then bring the knees together. And go ahead and roll off. And you can turn that blanket crosswise now that you had and come into Shavasana. And just, put your legs over your bolster and just relax. Now with your knees over the bolster, again, that really helps to sit the femur bones in the sockets properly. Just